this is Megan.
And this is Mark.
Welcome to our 21st video of the Stars Like Construction at Disneyland. Today is April 4th, 2018.
To start it off, workers are welding beams together on top of the Battle Escape side building. Looking to the right, where the caves are going to be, more mesh forms have been added to create the rock formations. This is a picture of what it looked like last month, and I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. Sliding to the left, we can see that a new beam structure is being constructed inside the Battle Escape show building. It's possible that this new beam structure will be the base for a spacecraft that will be up against the cylindrical room of the show building. And if it is for a spacecraft, Megan and I feel that this will look identical to the spacecraft under the rock cavity, as seen here, and also what we talked about in part 19, which basically this will be the entrance to the show building. Now if we look at the top of the show building, workers are in the process of minimizing the space between the mesh forms. Here's what it looked like last month, and you can clearly see the spaces that are separating each individual mesh form. As you can see, the spaces between the forms are disappearing. Now we're on Tom Sawyer Island, and they're minimizing the space between the forms on this side as well. Looking to the left a little bit, workers are adding a layer of concrete to the rock formations. Behind the trees in the distance, mesh forms are being added. I'll get a different angle. Alright, here we have a shot of the workers that are installing the forms. And they notice me in the distance. I'm waving back and I'm giving them a big thumbs up. It's really looking nice. A mesh form is being lowered and the workers are putting it into place. We're in front of Chippendale's treehouse. We'll go to the top and see what we can see from that perspective. Here we have a pretty good view of the top of the village area. Let's go ahead and zoom in and compare these structures to the model to see what they'll look like once they're completely finished. We'll pan left to right, and from this angle we're looking at the structures from the back end of Galaxy's Edge and the model pictures from the front end. The model pictures help us visualize the final look of each structure, and it is really coming along. Here some workers are adding metal studs to the side of the building. Eventually this building will have a dome-shaped top to it. Now we're on Tarzan's treehouse, and we're watching workers build a beam structure in the distance. Here a beam is being lifted. The workers are guiding the beam into position. Okay, now another beam is being put in place. This is a diagonal beam connecting two vertical beams together. The crane is lifting another beam to its location. And now the beam is put into place. Next, we'll go on the Disneyland Railroad. We can see that scaffolding has been put on the side where the caves are going to be. We'll go ahead and watch it in slow motion. We are now back at the parking structure, and we can see that the spaces between the forms on top of the battle escape are now virtually gone. Here's a recap of what the forms looked like this morning. The spaces are very visible. And going back to what it looks like now, we can see that the spaces have been closed up. They're preparing the forms so the concrete can eventually be added. Now if we look to the right a little bit, workers are adding concrete to the mesh forms. And they're putting shape to it. Next, if we look at the ground level, drywall is being added to the walls of the side building. And as we know, the side building will be part of the exterior queue of the Battle Escape attraction. Over on the top of the Millennium Falcon shell building, they're continuing to add mesh forms to the beam structures. The workers are putting this mesh form into place. And these are the same workers that we saw when we were viewing the forms from Tom Sawyer Island. I believe the worker on the right was the one that was waving to us. The form is now being welded into place.
Today is April 7th, 2018.
The crawler crane is lifting ducts for the HVAC system. Here they're being lowered to the top of the Millennium Falcon show building. Now if we look next to the Battle Escape side building, we can see that trees have been brought in. These trees will eventually be put on top of the area with the caves. And it looks like some trees have already been put in place. Next, if we look on top of the Battle Escape, a new concrete layer can be seen. We saw them start to add the concrete to the mesh forms last time we were here. It's looking nice. Next, we'll go into Mickey's Toontown. Here we can see new mesh forms that have been added. To the left of the mesh forms, a new coating has been added to the rock spires. I'll zoom in. You can start to see the different shades of color. Now if we zoom out, we can see materials and supplies being lifted to be put inside the Millennium Falcon show building. Alright, they are being lowered into the building.
Today's April 14th, 2018.
And we're on our way to Tom Sawyer Island to see what has changed from that perspective. We can see that more concrete has been added to the rock formations. This is the exact location where workers minimized the space between the mesh forms a couple weeks ago. Here we are on Tarzan's treehouse, and if we look at the sidewall of the Millennium Falcon show building in the distance, we can see more of the beam structure that was being made on April 4th. And here's the location of the 3 beams that we saw being installed. Also, the structure can be recognized on the model. That will do a split screen to get a side-by-side comparison. I'll highlight the area being constructed in yellow. Next, if we look up, the crawler crane is lifting items into one of the top openings of the Millennium Falcon show building. And today, we witnessed at least 6 of these being lowered into the building. If we slide to the left, workers are working on mesh forms that are located on top of the caves. Next, we'll go on the Disneyland Railroad to see this area from that perspective. We can see more of the trees that they brought in. We'll go ahead and watch it in slow motion. Let's go see what has changed from on top of Chippendale's treehouse. Alright, we're coming out of the treehouse and we'll look at the village area in the distance. Let's get a closer look. A new beam top structure has been made. I believe the structure is going to be the cantina. Here's a flashback to March. We saw a beam being lowered for this structure. Also from this shot, we can see 2 additional buildings as well. Okay, next we'll look at the model to recognize the location of these buildings in Galaxy's Edge. I'll go ahead and label the 3 buildings with the numbers 1, 2, and 3. And we're viewing these structures from this location. where Chippendale's treehouse is located. Our line of sight from the treehouse is approximately like this. Next, we'll do a split screen to get a side-by-side comparison. Again, I'll label the buildings with the numbers 1, 2, and 3. On the other side of Mickey's Toontown, the tower structure on the side of the Millennium Falcon Show building has paneling added to the outer surface. This is what it looked like back in February, and this is what it looked like back in March. Notice that the top structure has been removed. This was placed on the ground level so they could do some work on it. And now in April, the structure returns to the top with the side paneling on it. We're on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad to see the tower structure from this perspective. And there it is. Next, we'll go to the parking structure to see the paneling from the other side. Looking to the left, we can see that more mesh forms have been added to the rock formations. Over on the top of where the caves are going to be, more trees have been added. Now if we look at the sidewalls of the Battle Escape, maroon panels have been installed. I believe these are sound-absorbing panels, which are intended to absorb unwanted sound waves, such as traffic noise. And these panels are the same color as the side framing of the building to make them match. Now if we focus our attention inside the building, we can see what we believe is the internal framework for the spacecraft. That is really cool. Now if we zoom out again a little bit and look near the center of the picture, there is a larger space between the vertical beams. It is possible that this is going to be an exit for the craft. Let's go ahead and compare this to the model. As mentioned before, we believe that the spacecraft inside the docking bay will have the same look as the one that is built under the rock cavity that we see here on the model. And this area here will be the entrance to the spacecraft and is the location of the larger space between the vertical beams that we witnessed in the docking bay. Now the part that is highlighted in yellow is the area on either side of the large opening. We'll go back to the docking bay for comparison.
Today is April 22nd, 2018.
We'll take a ride on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. In the distance, we can see that antenna-like structures have been brought in. I'll zoom in so we can see them better. We'll go ahead and view this area on the model. This is it, and this is the exact location. We can see the antenna, however, they're not as detailed on the model as what we're actually seeing in real life. Although, the base structures have approximately the same look. Next, if we pan to the right, the tower structure next to the Millennium Falcon Show building has more paneling on the top. We'll head over to Mickey's Toontown next and view the structure from over there. Okay, I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. This is what it looked like last week, and I'll dissolve it back to what it looks like now. Here at the parking structure, we can see that more mesh forms have been installed. Now we'll pan to the left and look inside the docking bay area. It appears that the spacecraft beam structure has been removed from the base structure. It is possible that the beam structure was placed on top to evaluate beam alignment and then removed once the alignment was completed. And this isn't the first time we've seen this done. For instance, recently we saw the tower beam structure put in position and then removed. Also, we saw the tallest beam structure for the rock spires installed and then removed and not placed on top again until a couple weeks later. And the removal of this beam structure could be a similar scenario. Well, that's a taste of things to come.
We can't wait to see what they build next.